Hello and welcome. This pitch is with Anthony Tennyson, CEO of Awakn Life Sciences. Awakn Life Sciences is a clinical biotech company integrating psychedelics into mainstream mental health care. Anthony, take it away.
Thank you very much, Greg. Great to have the opportunity to speak to you and to your audience today. My name is Anthony Tennyson. I'm the Chief Executive of Awakn Life Sciences. In Awakn Life Sciences, our purpose is to integrate the benefits of psychedelic medicines into mainstream mental health care in order to deliver better mental health for more people. It's our understanding that a significant proportion of addiction and other mental health conditions have trauma as a common and significant contributing factor. The current psychology and psychiatry models are not always as effective at addressing this trauma as they could be. And as a company, it's our belief that it's the combination of psychedelic compounds, formulation-driven psychotherapy, delivered by qualified practitioners in a clinical environment that leads to the significant better patient outcomes that are required given the mental health crisis that exists today. If you separate out any of those four pillars, by example, focusing on compounds only, well, then you're into the traditional psychiatry model, which focuses on symptom suppression rather than addressing the root cause trauma. And similarly, if you take out the psychedelic compounds and focus on the psychotherapy, the practitioners in the clinics, you're in the traditional psychology model, which isn't always as effective as it could be. Within that context, Awakn Life Sciences is a clinical biotech company researching, developing, and delivering psychedelic new chemical entity drugs and therapies to treat addiction. We have a dual strategic focus, and it's this dual strategic focus that sets us apart from many players in the industry. Our goals are to develop and commercialize proprietary psychedelic NCE drugs and therapies to treat addiction, and also to treat addiction and other mental health conditions in a chain of medical psychedelic clinics across the UK and the EU. Our strategic objectives are to be the global leader in the research of psychedelic and new molecular entity drugs and therapies to treat addiction, to build, own, and operate the UK and EU's leading chain of clinics, and then to scale our reach outside our core markets through our partnerships ecosystem. All of this is built on a digital-first, data and analytics-driven business model, and given our unique position in clinics and research, and the fact that we will be capturing data points at touch points with our clients in our clinics and participants in our research, it means very soon we will have one of the deepest and most relevant data sets in the industry. This is our business model, and it's how we are going about executing our three strategic objectives. We've got two core areas of activity: IP development and routes to market. And within each area of activity, we've got two divisions, so four divisions in total. We have Awakn Research and Awakn Digital. Within Awakn Research, we're developing new chemical entity drugs to treat addiction. We're running the world's only clinical trial to seek marketing authorization for MDMA to treat alcohol use disorder in the UK and the EU. And we have a number of proprietary assets. Within Awakn Digital, we're developing a suite of predictive analytics to improve the effectiveness and the consistency of psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy in treating addiction. If you go back to one of the previous slides about the four pillars, it's easy to scale the molecules and the psychotherapy and the clinics by making more molecules, by making the therapy available, and by building more clinics. The bottleneck, and one of the significant bottlenecks in this industry, is the individuals or the therapists. Our core territory, UK and EU, 400 million people, about 20% of those, based upon statistics, have a mental health issue on an annual basis. That's a target audience that requires help of about 80 million people. To scale the industry like we need to scale it to solve this problem, we need a lot of therapists. And what we're going to do is we're going to develop a suite of supportive and predictive analytics to improve the consistency of how psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy is delivered in a clinical environment. Everything we develop in our IP development business units, we bring to market through our routes to market business units. We've got our clinics business, where we will be going to market in our core territories of UK and EU. We will treat addiction with proprietary protocols, therapies, and predictive analytics developed in our IP businesses. And we will treat other mental health conditions with non-proprietary therapies. Recognizing that there's a significant market beyond the UK and the EU, we intend to go to market outside our core territories by licensing or by providing licensed access to our IP, our data and analytics and our training through an IP licensing system. So just to deep dive into each one of those 4 business divisions that I've mentioned. Within Awakn Research, we've got 3 core activities. The core purpose of everything we do in research is to develop a competitive advantage for our clinics business and our partnerships ecosystem business. First activity is our new molecular or new chemical entity development program. We've acquired 5 years worth of proprietary research data from Professor David Nutt, and we have appointed Professor David Nutt to lead this research program for us. The core purpose of this program is to develop the next generation of MDMA and ketamine-like molecules specifically designed to better treat addiction. And what we are looking to do is to develop compounds that work like MDMA and ketamine, or work like MDMA, I should say, but work in the window that MDMA works in. We must accept that if we want to execute on our mission of integrating into mainstream, we've got to be able to work in 1 and 2 hour windows in order to be able to integrate into the financial model of the insurance companies and the public healthcare system. So that's what we're developing here. Within clinical trials, we're running the world's only phase 2B clinical trial focused on securing marketing authorization for MDMA-assisted psychotherapy to treat alcohol use disorder. We've initiated that clinical trial. We're going to scientific advisory committee with the MHRA in the next couple of weeks, aim to have ethics committee approval in Q2 and first time in human in Q3 this year. Awakn clinics will be the sites for our clinical trials, with our staff being the investigators for these clinical trials. And we're partnering with PRA Health Sciences as the clinical research organization to support the execution of that clinical trial. The third element of our research business is the development of proprietary therapies and protocols. We've acquired the therapy manuals from the world's only ketamine-assisted psychotherapy trial for alcohol use disorder. We've acquired that from Exeter University. And we've also developed a number of proprietary ketamine and MDMA protocols. MDMA protocols have been developed as part of our clinical trial, and the ketamine protocols will be what we will use to treat other mental health indications in our clinics. Just a bit of a deep dive. This is what we're doing to develop our own drugs. It's a very clear staged progress. We've acquired the data from Professor David Nutt, and the end point there is to get through preclinical trials on compounds that we have full freedom to operate that are specifically targeted at treating addiction. Within our digital business, the aim is to generate predictive analytics data packages. We're starting off with capturing data and then ultimately looking to identify the point at which someone's identity changes from suffering from a mental health indication to no longer suffering from a mental health indication. Within our clinics, the goal is to have 20 clinics open across the UK and the EU by the end of 2024, starting off with Bristol, London, Manchester this year, 2 more sites in the UK next year, and our first site in the European Union by the end of next year, ultimately 24 clinics across the UK and the EU by the end of 2024. We've got our ecosystems business, where we're looking to provide access to our IP to enable practitioners outside the UK and the EU deliver our methodology by providing licensed access to our protocols, our training, and our clinical best practices. Just in the interest of time, Why us and what sets us apart? Well, we've got the leading scientific and medical team in the industry with Nut, Sessa, Celia Morgan, Matt Johnson, and the Midhofers from MAPS. We've got strategic partnerships with two of the leading UK universities, Exeter and Imperial. We've got multiple revenue streams that are scalable and phased, with clinic revenue starting this year, partnerships revenue starting next year, and revenue from our new chemical entity development program starting 5 years plus. We've got a clear IP development pathway with our new drugs, clinical trials, and predictive analytics. We're global leaders in the field of psychedelic treatments for addiction. Professor Ben Sessa has led the world's only trial on MDMA for alcohol use disorder, and Professor Celia Morgan has led the only trial for ketamine for alcohol use disorder. And very, very importantly, we have a significant first mover advantage in the UK and the EU, which is 400 million people and 25 Canadian or 20 US trillion GDP per annum. Happy to take any questions at this stage.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anthony. I would love to start by, if you could describe a bit more detail about the protocol of how MDMA can be used to treat alcohol use disorder.
Sure, absolutely. So we've got, we're running a clinical trial to assess the efficacy of how MDMA-assisted psychotherapy can be used to treat alcohol use disorder. That's a phase 2B trial. We're building on the work that Dr. Ben Sessa, Dr. Laurie Higbed, and Professor David Nutt completed with the world's only phase 2A trial, which was a safety and tolerability study. That was a small trial, N equals 14. Typically speaking, you've got an 80% relapse rate with the best treatments in the UK and the EU for treating alcohol use disorder with the best treatments in class. That means 4 out of 5 people are back drinking within 12 months. The people that went through Dr. Sessa, Dr. Higbed's, and Professor Nutt's approach, there was a 21% relapse after 9 months. So a groundbreaking change. What we're doing is we're bringing that research forward into the next stage to test the efficacy as opposed to the safety. And what we're looking to do is, we understand and know that trauma is a significant contributing factor to addictive behaviors. MDMA is uniquely positioned to help address those traumas. And the reason for that is MDMA is wonderful. It does 2 things at the same time. It switches off the fight or flight mechanism, and it boosts the empathy mechanism. Typically speaking, when someone is suffering from trauma, one of 2 things will happen when you try and talk to them. They'll either clam up or they'll walk out the door. MDMA creates a bond between the client and the therapist, but through the empathy. It switches off the fight or flight mechanism, so it creates space for the therapist and the client to sit together, to share the space, and for the therapist to help the client understand and unpick the trauma that has led to them exhibiting negative behaviors and addictions. And that is why we really believe MDMA is a wonderful compound for helping address all traumas that lead to mental health issues, but particularly very, very positive in treating alcohol use, potentially treating alcohol use disorder. And that's why we're running the world's only phase 2B trial under the guidance of the MHRA, which is the UK competent authority.
Wonderful. As we know, clinical trials, as they get later stage, can become more expensive to fund. How do you plan on funding the later stage trials once you have a larger sample set of people?
Indeed, that is a great question. So look, you're absolutely right. You have to accept it takes significant capital to solve the type of societal problems that we're looking to solve. About pre-COVID, 20% of the UK and the EU population had what we would consider to be problem drinking behaviors, probably more post-COVID. That is a significant problem. It costs the public healthcare systems in the UK and the EU significant capital per annum to fix. It has a significant impact on individuals, families, and societies. So that is why we are prepared to invest significant capital to help solve that problem, because it's the bloody right thing to do. So we are going to be going to the capital markets in order to raise the money to enable us to execute on our clinical trial program to secure marketing authorization in the UK and the EU to secure marketing authorization for MDMA to treat alcohol use disorder. In addition to that, though, we are also going to be developing our own compounds, which we will have full freedom to operate, as in patent protection, which we think will be better suited to treat addiction than MDMA. But MDMA is a medium-term plan because we've got to get through phase 2B and then into a pivotal trial. Developing our own compounds is a longer-term objective of the company, but it gives us that full freedom to operate that a traditional biotech company would have. And both of those work streams, we will be going to the capital markets to secure funding to enable us to execute on those work streams. So our plan is to go public on the NEO Exchange in Canada before the end of Q2 this year as part of our plan, our capital market strategy to secure the capital in order to be able to solve those significant societal problems that we want to solve.
Can you talk a bit about your decision of opening clinics in the UK and EU and how you think about the that geography and why start there and the expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, maybe a good way to look at this is why are we a clinical biotech company? Why are we doing both research and clinics at the same time? The reason that we're doing it is back to what I said in my presentation, is it's the 4 core pillars together are what work. You separate anything and you have a slightly less effective model. So that's why we are doing research and clinics together, because you need them to work together to deliver that significantly better patient outcome that we want to deliver. So why are we choosing the UK and the EU? The UK and the EU is a 400 million person territory. It's a significant and large market that has significant and large problems, mental health issues that need to be solved. It's also where our team are based. Professor David Nutt, Dr. Ben Sessa, Dr. Laurie Higbed, the original team, they're based in the UK. I'm based in Ireland. So it's just natural that we focus on the UK first. And then once we've established our position in the UK market, we will then look to move selectively and strategically into various markets in the EU. Aware there is a very large market in North America, but from a risk profile, operating clinics in the US has a significantly different risk profile from an insurance perspective than operating clinics in the UK and the EU. So that is why we have chosen to operate our clinics business in the UK and the EU, but recognizing there is a commercial opportunity available in North America, we will be look to license our IP to addiction practitioners in North America.
Got it. Makes sense. And in terms of the laws in the EU and in America, can you talk about kind of how you think about navigating the regulatory framework, especially dealing with substances like MDMA?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our clinics, we will be treating people with ketamine in the near term, because in the UK, ketamine is a Schedule 2 compound, and across the EU, it's between Schedule 2 and Schedule 3. So appropriately qualified doctors are allowed to prescribe ketamine off-label. Each clinic that we operate will be led medically by a consultant-level psychiatrist. Consultant-level psychiatrists are allowed to prescribe ketamine off-label. So that is what we will be doing in our clinics. Everything we do, we operate within both the law and medical guidance. Within our research, we will be researching using MDMA, but that is a different business unit. And we are allowed to conduct research with Schedule 1 compounds like MDMA, whereas in clinics, we use Schedule 2 compounds like ketamine.
Wonderful. I think that wraps up for our questions. That was very thorough. Thanks, Anthony.
No problem. Listen, it was an absolute pleasure to get the opportunity to talk to you and to get to talk to the audience today.
Wonderful.